Stop talking to thin white men. Oh, they're
Oh,
boring? Oh, they're unseasoned? Yeah, no duh.
and now it's time for Brad versus TikTok, my daily segment where I take on the craziest ideas from the Clock app.
Pronoun of the day is slugs.
Make sure you're subscribed and don't forget to hit that like button as we go along to reward my suffering. I incur permanent brain damage from these videos, so the least you can do is reward me with a like. Today, we're going to take a look at a self-described fat queer TikToker who thinks that fat queers are more interesting than skinny white gays. Us evil, evil people.
Something I was not prepared for as a queer man was the unseasoned queer men with
I've seen way too many of these posts, so I felt like I should talk on it. Stop talking to thin white men. Oh, they're
Oh?
boring? Oh, they're unseasoned? Yeah, no duh. They're not interesting because they're basically not needing to be interesting. They're just worshipped for being and looking the way that they do, so they don't have to have anything behind those eyes. And many of them don't. Not
Oh?
saying all, but many. Start talking to fat queer men because we're far more interesting than any of those people.
First, I don't know that I've ever been described as unseasoned before. That's a new one for me, y'all. And maybe it's just me, but even as a skinny white man, I don't know that I've ever actually been worshipped just because of the way that I look. I think that might only happen in this fella's fantasies. I also find it bizarre and really unpleasant that anyone would suggest that some demographic groups of people are inherently more interesting than others. I know lots of people with great personalities who are really funny, who are, not super thin. They are not fall into that category of skinny men that he is so jealous of, evidently. But there's also plenty of boring overweight people, and vice versa. There's plenty of interesting thin people and not so interesting thin people. You're not actually progressive if you suggest that people's personalities are dictated by their characteristics. And honestly, the whole video just reeks of jealousy. For audio listeners, just for descriptive purposes, this individual is, we'll just say, not the thing that he's criticizing. And that clearly pains him. He's clearly not very happy with himself or with how he's perceived by others. And he's decided to take that out by discriminating against and venting against an entire demographic group of people who haven't done anything wrong except simply exist the way we are. That's a crappy way to treat people or talk about people, but ultimately I have some compassion for him because it's clearly coming from a place of deep-rooted envy and jealousy and insecurity. He also, of course, has pronouns in bio, which, as I've said, is always how you know you're about to see the worst take of your life. And apparently he doesn't see the cognitive dissonance in anything that he's saying, because in a follow-up video, he doubled down on the inconsistency.
Some people were mad that I made generalizations about the skinny gay community in my last video. And honestly, how dare I make generalizations about a whole community? It's not like the fat and plus size community gets that done to them every time that they walk into any place ever. And it's literally proven because I get multiple comments about it. People out themselves saying, oh, I would never date a fat person because they're unhygienic, because they're lazy, because they're not as active. And I'm like, bullshit, you didn't get to even know them. How the f*** do you know? You don't. You're making generalizations. So I made a generalization, and I will stop making generalizations about thin people when fat and plus size people get afforded the same courtesy.
So this was really bizarre to me because I don't know how somebody can articulate what he's just articulated in this video and not see the inconsistency. I agree with him that if you're going around saying that fat people are all unhygienic, or you're assuming people are unhygienic because they're overweight, that's not fair. That's not true. That's unfair and it's discriminatory. But if you're calling out behavior that you view as immoral and wrong and unfair, to then adopt that same exact behavior in retaliation is to knowingly embrace immoral and unfair behavior. That's immoral. You are becoming the very same thing that you say you hate, that you say you're opposed to. And in fact, just reinforcing that practice rather than leading by example and opposing that kind of blanket thinking and stereotyping and discrimination, you're doing it too. And it's such a childish way. I'll stop when you stop is such a childish way to approach immoral interpersonal interactions. Anyway, to this dude, I'm sorry if people are making nasty generalizations towards you, but you lose some of my sympathy because you're doing the same exact thing right back in the other direction, and don't seem to get how much of a hypocrite that makes you. I hope you can wake up, stop doing this, and come to accept yourself better, either by improving your health and becoming more comfortable with what you see in the mirror, or just through improving your own self-esteem and self-confidence so you don't feel the need to tear down others to try to cover up for your own insecurities. You guys let me know what you think in the comments below, and if I'm just missing the point because of my skinny white male privilege or something.